Hey guys, welcome to 2025. Today I wanted to meet with you because it's been such a long break. It's February now, we are starting 2025 season. I hope you will join me for this year. I will be sharing my tasks for the months. I will be showing you how I prune my plants, how I take care of my plants, and I'm really excited for this season. Today I wanted to meet with you and talk about the gardening tasks I'm planning for February, and I hope you will join me. Let's begin. So for those of you who do not know where we live in Poland, in Warsaw. Our zone is 6B, 7A, depending on the year, because it's been, the weather has been changing and we've had more and more warm winters. In previous years, like 15, 20 years ago, in our winter, we had temperatures like -15, -25 even, so it was very cold. We've never done anything in the garden in February because it was covered with snow and nothing could be done. But in the last, I would say 7 years, it's been changing so much that we have winters similar to English winters. So we have mild minus temperatures like -4, -6, maybe sometimes -10 is like very rare now. So a lot of tasks can be done earlier. I've done a lot of tasks in January because it was incredibly warm. We've had days that it was +12 degrees Celsius and 4 at night. So that was normally March or even April winter. So I've done a lot of pruning in January, but I will be still doing some tasks if the weather is still good, because sometimes we'll get in February a cold snap like today. Now it's -2, so I always look at the weather, and whatever I say that I do in February, you should consider the place where you live in and what weather is like that week. Of course, the best way to prune plants is to look at the temperatures during the day and during the night. If you have a week with plus temperatures, so above 0 during the day and during the night, this is the perfect time to prune your plants. So let's start with pruning. I'll show you what I prune in February. So, in February I will be pruning my ligustrum. This is the type of ligustrum that loses its leaves during the winter. And February, when we have a perfect window of opportunity, as I call it, so we have plus temperatures during the night and during the day, I will be pruning that. We prune this ligustrum 3 times a year, and first one is February or March, depending on the weather, and then during the season, because pruning this hedge gives it beautiful, dense appearance, and it's a wonderful backdrop for the rest of my garden. Here you can see my raised beds. They are wooden beds, and they are, I think, now 7 years old. First thing I'll be doing when we have a good weather, I will be cleaning all of those beds. So I'll be removing the plants that were annuals. I will be cleaning some plants and preparing the beds for next year. In March, I'll be adding here compost, some natural fertilizers, but also, I need to clean all of those wooden boards. I clean them with gardener's soap, so potassium soap, and then I will add some natural oil so they last for a bit longer. So this plant reminded me that I should remind you not to prune some of the plants. If your plants bloom in early spring, you should not prune them. This spirea is Spirea Griefsheim, and it blooms in April. If I pruned it now, it wouldn't bloom. Same with lilacs, with forsythia. Those are the plants I do not prune. I prune them after their bloom, so maybe May, maybe June. But all the other ones that bloom late in summer or in the summer, you can prune now. One of my favorite tasks for February is feeding the birds. They are just such amazing creatures. We have all of those feeders here in front of our dining room window, and we watch them. I watch them, my cats watch them, my husband watches them. We could do it all day long because they are so cute, and you can see how every different bird has different personality, how they fight over food, how they interact with one another. And this one, this feeder is for the bigger birds, and we also have the ones for the smaller ones. But the variety of birds every year is bigger and bigger, and I really love doing that. I feed them with sunflower seeds, and they are without like this. They look like this, and I come every 2 days and I add a lot. And I always think that they think about our garden as a 5-star restaurant. February is a perfect time, if the weather is good, to prune your fruit trees. As you can see here, I have an espalier apple tree. I've pruned it in January because we had such beautiful weather. It was 11 degrees during the day, 5 degrees during the night. So I used this time to prune the apple tree, but still you can do it until March. In previous years, when we had a lot of snow, we would do it in March, but now if the weather is fine, I always do it earlier. What about hydrangeas, Annabelles, and all of those panicum hydrangeas? I've been doing some tests. I really love showing you how I do it in a different way, in a different time. So I've pruned some of my hydrangeas in November. I've pruned some just a week, 2 weeks ago in January when we had plus temperatures during the day. Some of my Annabelles and some of my panicle hydrangeas are still waiting to be pruned, and I will be doing that if the weather allows in February or early March. And I will show you during the season what the difference was. I can tell you, hint, that in previous years it did not matter when I pruned, they all bloomed the same. But we'll see this year, maybe it will be something different. What about pruning your ornamental grasses? As you can see here, there is Hakonekloa. It is still dancing in the wind. I've pruned some in January as a test. We'll see how it will grow and if it was too early. I've always done it end of February and March, and this one is still waiting to be done. But I've already pruned Cesleria grass, the Cesleria autumnalis. This is a grass you should prune early because it starts early. So in the front border, they've already been pruned, and I'm still waiting for the others. I will be pruning them when the weather is nice, end of February, early March. Then I will be going with all of those in the front border. The last grasses I'll be pruning is Stipa, because when it starts very fast after the prune, there is the risk of frost, and if I prune it too early, it might suffer. So I'm really waiting with this grass even until April, and I still look at the weather if we will have some cold snaps. What about perennials? Is it worth removing all of those dead stems, or do we still leave them? Let's go to another part of the garden and talk about that. Okay, there's always this question, is it worth removing all of the dead foliage of perennials in late winter, even in autumn? I do that with all my old perennials because it's easier for me to plant my bulbs. It's less work for me in the spring when we have amazing amount of work that needs to be done. So it's a nod to my spine that it works better. So I do remove all of the foliage either in the fall or early spring, late winter when the weather is fine. And it works for me, but it's not something you have to do. It's just a way you can do things. And with new perennials that I planted last year, I always leave the foliage because it's always a protection on this new plant when the new leaves emerge. So this is what I do, only young plants. But you can still do that with old plants. You can remove everything just in March and not worry. This is just a way to do things, not a thing you should do. So these borders, as you can see, they almost look bare, but Alchemilla mollis. Here we have a lot of catmint and salvias, and you can see hundreds of alliums that are just pushing through the ground. They are like few centimeters tall now, so this will be full of blooms. You can watch the videos from, I will link some, how it looked like in June, how it looked in May. It's an abundance of flowers, and all the bees and butterflies love this space. So here are my hellebores. It's one of the few borders I have with hellebores. I've removed some of the leaves, and I will be doing that during February and March when the weather is fine, so like plus temperatures during the day, during the night. Removing the leaves of hellebores is very good for them. First, it's good because we can see the flowers better, but a lot of leaves after the year, they will look a bit, I would say, shaggy. They will have some spots on them, and every year I remove them, and every year they produce mass of leaves, very healthy ones, good looking ones, and it's better for the health of your hellebores. And I will be also replanting the tiny seedlings of hellebores, because if you leave the flowers, they will self-seed. Then you can take those tiny plants and plant them somewhere in the garden. In few years, they will have flowers, and they will be your babies. They were made in your garden, and the flowers can be totally different than the mother and the father. So that's exciting. I always like to wait for those plants and see what all of those pollinators, what all of those plants produced in my garden. We have some new varieties. I wanted to check this border with hellebores because they've been blooming like crazy since, some of them even since December. So some of them look like they fainted, and this is a good way to show you how the minus temperatures are affecting the hellebores. Sometimes they will look like they do not have water, they fainted, what happened, and you will be really struggling and thinking your plants died. But just wait, some sun will come, the temperature will rise, and they will also rise up, so do not worry. You might lose some stems if the freezing temperatures are really low, but they were just minor accidents. Most of the hellebores I've seen, even with really cold temperatures, they will fall and they will rise up. So I'm really happy, because you can imagine now it's -2, I think, in the garden. My hands are like freezing cold. And you can see those beautiful flowers of hellebores. They are incredible plants. I really love them. They thrive in the shady parts of your garden. They give you so much color in late winter, early spring. One of my favorite plants, and I really always want to have more and more of them. Okay guys, before we freeze, because it's really cold, I wanted to talk about sowing your seeds. This month I will be forcing my ranunculus and my anemones, and I will show you that in a video how I do it. I have a very good method that works really well, and you do not lose too many corms thanks to that. Then I will be sowing my seeds for my sweet peas, because this is the first thing I sow, and then I sow my peppers and my tomatoes. But I sow my tomatoes a bit later, after the 20th of February. This is a perfect time for me because of our last frost that comes at 15th of May in Poland. So you need to consider that, so your plants are not too big to plant in the greenhouse. Then I will be starting sowing the seeds of salads and radishes, but that will be at the end of February, because I do not want to rush it too much, because I need to have good weather in the greenhouse, because it's not a heated greenhouse. So I really need to be careful with not sowing too soon, because then the plants will be too big. It's very important when you're putting your plants on windowsills that you have a huge amount of light coming, and the place that you have them in is not too hot. This is quite important, especially for those plants, maybe not peppers and not tomatoes, because they like the warm temperatures, but if you're sowing something like sweet peas or the plants of hardy annuals, they really need some cold weather, but not freezing. So this is what we are trying to find in the garden and in the greenhouse. Okay, guys, let me know, first of all, from where are you watching this episode? Let me know how is the weather in your country and in the place that you live. What can you do during this time? Can you already sow the seeds? Can you clean your borders? Or maybe you live in a place that is covered with snow like we used to be. Let me know in the comments. And if you like today's video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing so you can join me for the whole season of the gardening tasks. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.